Hey there YouTube, just wanted to show you how to quickly set up the MCR42 Wisycom dual receiver with the Wisycom MTP40S transmitters. Most of this little tutorial will apply for other transmitters that you can connect to this receiver as well. So let's just get it powered on, press and hold the on key here for a couple of seconds and it pops on. So what the first thing you're really going to want to do is scan the available frequencies to see where best to place your transmitters. If you've got the wideband transmitters like I have here to go with the wideband receiver, you can then scan the entire frequency block, from the whole range of the transmitter. And in this case, if we just have a look inside the transmitter, in here, I'll just do all this one-handed, you can then see this one operates from 510 to 698 megahertz, which is pretty huge, so you'll be able to find somewhere that works. So once you get to this first page, this on page here, you'll see the two sides, this one dedicated to transmitter 1 and this side transmitter 2. Now because it's a proper dual diversity system, it kind of switches which aerial's working for each one. So this aerial doesn't necessarily apply to transmitter 1 and this one's 2. They kind of flip depending on what frequency is best. But yeah, that's another thing altogether. So if you are just on this main page here, you can use the up and down buttons here just to scan through. First of all, you've got volume, then you've got your signal squelch and stuff here, signal strength. You've then got what frequency receiver 2 is on, then receiver 1, and then you're back round again to this page. And on here you can see the various details. So channel 1 is on group 27 channel 0, and 2 is on 27 group 27 channel 1, and then it shows you the actual frequency of that there as well. So if you want to just set up a scan, which is a pretty normal thing to want to do when you get to a new location, what I tend to do is just press and hold the scan. You want to scan for 1 first, which makes sense. We'll press select, and then here you'll see it's currently scanning on group 27, which is in the 674 megahertz range. It's just gone off because I didn't decide what to do. But what I tend to do when I get to a new location is scroll right back down to the bottom. So we're going to go all the way down here to 01 intergap. And if I press select, what it's going to do, with all the transmitters turned off, which they are, I'm going to press select, and it's now scanning the entire range that this receiver is capable of, from 470 way up to like 700 and something. So it doesn't do a whole scan of each of those groups, but what it does is gives you a pretty good idea in a starting place as to where you can place your transmitters. So actually, if we look at this, there's almost nothing around. It's showing it in this view at the moment, where the one with the most noise is at this side. If you press these two together, you get to this view where you can actually just physically scan up linearly along the block from 470, and you scroll through. So scroll here. There's the only one where there's actually a blip there is around 526, and then look, you've got the level here in decibels of noise. -7, -7, so I mean there's really nothing going on up here. -9, so we go back to where I was, -27, -9 dBV. So yeah, that's going to be absolutely fine. So we'll stick with that. We'll press select, and that saves the fact that we're going to be on group 27 now to 1. So now what we need to do is we need to scan block 27. So, same process, but now we're going to go up, 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 and back to 27. So we'll go along, go along, go along. Here we go, 27, press select. Yep, same process again. And now what it does is does a far more accurate job of just scanning that part of the block. Once it's scanned the frequencies that are pre-coordinated that Wisycom do for you, it then scans the additional ones that are set up in that group. It's slightly confusing, the Wisycom system, if you haven't used it before, because basically for each group you go to, there's sort of like, I think it's 8 pre-coordinated frequencies, and then they just bang a load of other ones in there that are coordinated, but they're like not in the 670 range. So I'll do the same process again. I prefer looking at it in a linear view like this. So yeah, we look through these first couple of channels. We've actually got a bit of noise on this one now, so we might consider using a different block altogether. But if I'm just in a situation where I'm just using one channel, and we go to this first one, 0, 0, that's at -3, which is absolutely fine. So press and hold that. Okay, now that's stored. So now there we are, 2700. Now the next thing I might want to do is to sync up this transmitter if it hasn't been done before. So what I do is, because when you turn it on, it automatically looks at this infrared port to see if there's a sync signal coming from it. So what I tend to do is pull it out of my bag a little bit. I press and hold sync, and it comes up. Which one do you want to sync? Receiver 1 or receiver 2? So you can just do this up or down, receiver 1, receiver 2. And I press select, and it gives you a little while to be able to figure out. So I then switch it on, hold it underneath here. When you hold it in line, bam, you then get all done. Because this has come on, and in the process of turning it on, it then looks for a sync signal. Now, if you kind of turn it on, you shouldn't really be scanning with this turned on anyway, but if you forget or whatever, you've walked off and you want to sync it when it's already turned on, you can just scan through. If you just use right or left, you can scan through the menu options on the transmitter here. And these are all pretty standard settings, which I'll go through in just a second. But one of the last options you get to is this IRDA enabled. If you do that and you click on the wheel, it will then be ready to receive a sync signal again. So say if you want to sync again while the thing's on, press and hold sync, press select, go like that, and it should, you need to kind of be able to see it. But I'm not even on. Oh dear, here we go, messing it up for the video. There we go. There we go, all done. So there's that'll be that one synced. Now finally, just to whiz through the menus on here, and I won't do it super in depth, but just something, you know, if you get one of these and you don't really know how to use it, same sort of thing really. You're just looking at a main splash screen. The frequency that it's on, you can manually change that. This is the kind of mic, 2 wires and bias. Push to talk is disabled. That's because I'm using COS 11s. What we got here, you know, LED light, how the LED light operates. This is all pretty standard stuff. I'm using lithium batteries. I'm on 50 milliwatt output. You can pump that up to 100 or even 150, I think. So let me see what that goes to. Yeah, 100. 100 is the most, sorry. And then you can do 10 or 50. I find that 50 is just right. 100, unless you're like long range or car to car or something, you just don't need it. It makes it really busy. Besides anything else, using 100 in the UK is actually not licensable anyway. So here we've got like what kind of limiter we're using and the noise reduction. Because we're Wizzy to Wizzy, that's the one that we want to use, and we're using it with voice, we're not using it with an instrument, so that's the one to use. Spinning through here, I think we're nearly done. We've got phase, high pass filter. I just put a very low one on there because I tend to do the filtering a little bit later. Also, I've used it all digital system, so I don't really get an awful lot of noise or need for more bandwidth on it. And you can name the thing, and you can come up with your own presets. So say, for instance, you use this transmitter for, you know, instruments as well as voice, then you can have another setup with it all wired up, and so you can just go to your user settings and go guitar, and then it's ready for guitar. Or, you know, if you say you use it with a 45 phantom power module and you have it line level, then you can have it set for that. But yeah, back to the receiver, same sort of thing. We've already been through these menus here. The one or two other couple of pitfalls that I think you could find yourself in trouble with is I'm using this just out of the receiver 1 digitally into a Sound Devices 623, so I've got it on AES coming in. If I hit the menu though, you've got the same sort of thing, infrared, you've got your presets, and in the advanced menu here, this is when you've got power on, receiver 1 and receiver 2. If one of them is just not on, it might be that someone has previously selected to just power up receiver 2 or just receiver 1. I sometimes do that if I know I'm only using one all day long. It makes no sense having the whole other side powered up all day and never being used. The other thing you might want to do, and this is a bit of a crucial one, if someone's switching between using it digitally and analog, it's this line mode here you need to get to in the advanced menu. Hit in there and you can switch between AES or you can switch between analog. And again, you know, if you're just getting nothing out of it or you can't understand why and you're trying to use it as an analog receiver, it might be because someone's previously left it on that digital mode. And then if you just go into either edit receiver 1 or edit receiver 2, you click in there, you can obviously rename it, you can manually change the frequencies and groups here. You've got your squelch settings, expander settings, same as the other thing, tone squelch, audio out, and this kind of thing. Now, audio out is another useful one. I set my AES3 max level to be 0 decibel full scale, just because that's when it comes into the 633, I tend to have it at about +5 on its gain setting, and that works for me. But I mean, you need to have a look at that and see what works for you. That is just about it. Again, now we've got it on, you can see our battery level and our signal level, and down the bottom here, you've then got our volume level, so we can see 2, 2, 2, that popping in. And that's about it. If you've got any questions or you feel I haven't covered something, do ask in the comments below. I hope the video has been helpful, and yeah, drop us a like if you've enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye.